We welcome back to the show on the Murphy Show hotline our United States Senator Jeff Sessions. Senator Sessions, good morning. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Hello, Matt Murphy. Good to be with you.
Well, we knew this was coming down. I know you knew that it was coming down. We expected it. Already the EPA has tightened regulatory control over these coal or fossil fuel type plants. And just talk to us about discovering these new tighter regulations and how you feel like it's going to affect the American economy.
Well, there's no doubt it will impact us by driving up cost at a time when we have a really fragile economy. People hurting, they need jobs, they need better wages, and it's not happening. And it's persisting here for the last 7 years. And so we need to do better, and higher energy costs are just exactly the wrong thing. And it's all based on Congress has never voted to regulate CO2, never voted for that. They used the Clean Air Act in the 1970s that dealt with pollutants like NOx and SOx and particulates, and they now say CO2 is a pollutant. And so by a 5-4 Supreme Court ruling, they gave unelected bureaucrats the right to regulate this plant food, CO2. So I'm really worried about it. We need to speak out. We could put this economy back into a recession if we don't watch out, and we're almost there now. We had negative growth of 1% the first quarter of this year. This is a shocking event.
You know, you mentioned the Supreme Court ruling 5-4 that allows for the EPA to regulate this stuff, but in that ruling it said Congress granted the Environmental Protection Agency the regulatory control. Well, cannot Congress take that away?
Absolutely could be taken away. What they did, I think, was an activist ruling. Congress we didn't even think about global warming when the Clean Air Act was passed. There was no direct congressional intent to regulate CO2, but they've now given it to them. The court has, calling CO2 a pollutant. Okay, so we can pass a law that changes that. The problem is the House has already done it. The Republican House has passed that, but we've not been able to get it through the Democratic majority in the Senate.
Our guest is U.S. Senator Jeff Sessions talking about the latest EPA regulatory attempts to I believe the administration desires to shutter the coal industry altogether. Do you share that belief?
Well, he said so. He said, anybody that brings a coal in a campaign the first time, if you build a coal plant, you're going to go bankrupt. He said electricity rates will necessarily skyrocket. The liberal environmental activists want to see the price of energy go up. They want to particularly see the price of energy go up that's produced by carbon-based fuels. And that's their goal. And we need to know that. And right now, with this weak economy where people are hurting, we do not need to drive up people's electric bill, their gasoline bill, and make their place where they work less able to make a profit and be less competitive.
According to a study that I saw by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, there would be a disproportionate impact and effect on southern states. And a lot of these states are states that don't traditionally vote Democrat. We are a red state in Alabama, as you well know, Senator Sessions. Do you think this is part of it, that the president, his administration, Democrats generally don't feel like they're going to feel much impact in the blue states, but they're going to really take it to the red states?
Yes, I think in this sense, they do this very expensive regulation, and most of the costs will fall in the states that didn't vote with them. So I think there's a little bit of that in the background. I doubt they would be doing that if it were different, or maybe not doing so much. But I got to tell you, this Tom Steyer from California is just an environmental extremist in my view, and he's promised $100 million in campaign money to the Democrats to oppose people who don't agree with them on environmental issues. And there are a lot of believers in this, and I just think they're going too far. We're making progress in the United States. The CO2 that's been increasing in the environment is mainly out of China and India and these developing economies. Our percentage of CO2 in the environment is shrinking in the U.S. significantly.
Senator Jeff Sessions,
we're doing more efficiently and more effectively and cleaner, and I think that's all good. It's just we can't hammer the economy to achieve too much too fast.
And just as a matter of record, Senator, I mean, you and I both agree that we want clean water, we want clean air. These are things that we have been very effective at cleaning up over the course of the decades. But what this is all about is this, what I consider to be almost a religion of global warming or climate chaos or whatever their phraseology is today, that they go after fossil fuels and the fossil fuel industry in the name of what is almost a cult-like religion at this point.
I got to tell you, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And yesterday, we had a hearing, and Chairman Barbara Boxer and Markey from Massachusetts, they hammered the Nuclear Commission, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, adding more. They want to add more and more and more regulations that could eliminate that industry. We get a lot of clean electricity from nuclear plants. They emit no CO2, no pollutants into the atmosphere. They're cost-effective. They run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, can go a year without refueling. And so now we want to replace that with much, much more expensive renewable forms of energy that simply cannot meet our needs. I was really disappointed at the hostility that they showed yesterday, and I was aggressive about it. But at the committee hearing, that the left also doesn't want nuclear power.
Well,
my goodness, what else are we going to use? There's just not enough solar or wind to make this work.
Well, you're exactly right, Senator Sessions. Shifting gears here, the story of Sergeant Bo Bergdahl is obviously the hottest story in the country right now concerning what the president did, and did he or did he not violate the law that he himself signed? Was he not to give Congress a heads up that there would be a prisoner transfer? These 5 terrorists in Guantanamo Bay being released to Qatar. I know that the entire state is curious your comments on this.
Look, we had a briefing with a number of officials last night, and it was one of the most troubling briefings I've ever been in. It had no credibility with me. The arguments and the reasons they gave for what they did just did not ring true. They didn't meet the common sense test. We've got people at war right now in Afghanistan. They're on patrol. They're working with the Afghan allies, and some of the things they said about this just seems oblivious to the reality of that. And remember, last year in the defense bill, Congress, on a bipartisan basis, passed a law that said Congress must be notified 30 days before any such release as this. And the president just ignored that. And also, Senator Feinstein, the Democrat chairman of the Intelligence Committee, and Saxby Chambliss, a ranking Republican, have twice written the president in detail why something like this should not happen. So he did it anyway. He didn't tell them in advance, and it's a colossal error. In my opinion, it's a colossal error. It hurts our country. It weakens the United States in a whole host of ways. And I'm very, very worried about it. I just think it doesn't reflect an understanding of what it means to commit men and women to combat and what we owe them. We're going to release 5 of the worst terrorists. And one of these terrorists in Afghanistan, his statement has been interpreted, and he basically said it's the equivalent of adding 10,000 jihadists to our cause, this release. This is a huge victory for the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and I just am baffled by it. I can't comprehend it.
Senator Lindsey Graham, your colleague in the Senate, stated that Republican lawmakers would call for President Obama's impeachment if he released more prisoners from Guantanamo Bay without congressional approval. Do you reflect that sentiment?
Well, I would just say it this way. The commander-in-chief has to be responsible to law, and people are getting very concerned about the lawlessness that we're seeing here. It goes beyond anything I've ever seen, and it reflects an ignorance of the great American system where people pass laws even if they don't like them, they abide with them. So if our top leaders are just ignoring laws, this has a corrosive effect on the entire integrity of the Democratic Republic that we're so proud of. I mean, the rule of law is at the bottom of our prosperity and our liberty. And I don't think the president has a sufficient grasp of that.
Senator Jeff Sessions, our guest this morning, talking about a variety of issues to include the war on coal on the part of the Obama administration, the EPA. Bo Bergdahl. Lost in those two stories, Senator, is the story of illegal immigration. I know you have championed this issue over any number of years in the United States Senate, and you really have been a flag bearer on this issue. What type of status update can you give us?
Well, one of the most stunning developments was just released that the president has said basically he's not going to deport anybody who came here as a teenager. And not basically, he basically said that and directed his agencies not to do it. Well, we've had this surge of young people all across the border. They were spending $800, $700 million a year on housing and taking care of persons who came into the country, young people like that. Now it's $2.3 billion because we've had a surge from under 100,000 to about 300,000. They've just heard his words. I mean, it's like he's told the whole world that if you come here as a young person, you're not going to be sent home. And they're not actually, it appears, sending them home. They're resettling them, according to the news articles. So anyway, I would just say that the first thing a president of the United States should do, he's the chief law enforcement officer, he should make clear that you should not come unlawfully to America. And if you do, you'll have to be deported. And don't spend the money. Don't put your life at risk. Don't do these things, please, people. We will not accept it. And when he doesn't do that, it encourages more. And that's exactly what we're seeing. He has nobody to blame but himself. Really, I warned that this would happen for months.
And finally, and I know you've got to scoot Senator Sessions, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Veterans Administration scandal. That's kind of getting lost in the shuffle with all of the other things going on in Washington, D.C., but I know it's very concerning to you, the consideration that we literally have veterans that are dying while they're on these hidden wait lists. Speak to that, if you don't mind.
Well, it's absolutely unacceptable. What we need is a very, very strong leader, somebody who can manage that department, who's absolutely committed to it. And we haven't had it. General Shinseki, I've liked him, but he's not engaged. Nobody has broken the bureaucracy. We can do better, and I think Congress will pass legislation that hopefully we'll be able to get something passed pretty quickly that will improve this situation. But I really do think that we need a leader. One time I said we need a Nick Saban, but somebody that can immediately take over that agency, reform it, make tough decisions, get the thing on the right track, and make us put us on a path to respecting the veterans like we should. And it's not happening today, unfortunately.
Senator,
one of the things they discussed is providing some option for people who live at distances to get their care from local physicians. I think that's got to be something we consider. Why would you want to leave your town, drive 80 miles when you have a cardiologist that you'd rather see instead of one, in a VA hospital 100 miles away? So with a big waiting list. So those are some things we could do that give power to veterans, which I'd like to see us do more of.
Well, Senator, if he wins very many more Iron Bowls, you're going to have to say we need a Gus Malzahn and not
I
a
guess you're right. But I'm kind of serious about that.
No doubt, I understand.
A really tough manager like these coaches are, the lowest cleaning person in these agencies would know who the boss is and what the rules are and what's expected of you. And we don't have that in your great government, I got to tell you.
Well, Senator, thanks for 15 good minutes this morning. Come see us when you're in Birmingham or in the state, and we appreciate the time. Take care.
Thank you very much.
All right. That's Senator Jeff Sessions on the Murphy Show.